In this part 2 episode with Willy Big Bull, Tanner and Willy get to chat about engaging in positive change making in an inviting and constructive way. There's a really encouraging spirit to this chat throughout, and it was a pleasure to get to hear and hang out with Willy.
Day's almost over, work's finally through. Dark clouds are rolling above me, the skies ain't so blue. And I ain't got a penny to my name, all my dues are due. But I finally found me a way how to get home to you. Had a good thing going back home, yo. Had to be free. I pointed my Chevy up north, the good Lord and me. Lost my conscience somewhere on Highway 63. I made friends, the devil, and now they won't let me be. Gonna build me scaffold up to heaven. I said, Lord, that's the only way I'll make it at all. If that whiskey in the winter don't kill me, work surely will, y'all. I'm gonna build me scaffold to heaven, pray I don't fall. Can't find a cloud I can hang from, gonna build from the ground. I ain't got a whole lot of gear, so gonna use what I found. Something below me keeps trying to drag me back down. I can hear them angels above. What a beautiful sound. Now I'm building scaffold to heaven. I said, Lord, that's the only way.
You bet.
I'm gonna make it
Thank you.
enough. If that wind and the women don't kill me, work surely will, y'all. Gonna build me scaffold to heaven, pray I don't fall. Dealt cards with the devil so long, y'all. And forgot the cost. I thought heaven would be green fields and blue skies. She covered in frost. But I stood at there can't find my way back home, y'all. It looks like I'm lost. I said to build me a scaffold up to heaven. Oh, mama, I didn't know just what else I was gonna do. So man at the front gate said, Bubba, you ain't on my list, boy. I got tossed out of heaven, and I'll be down here crying to you.
I don't know anyone else that gets to say, I cut my teeth as a funeral singer. What kind of training does that give you? You definitely, you're performing in a very, very different way. Yeah. And I imagine there's still a little bit of room for humor, to lighten the mood, but then you provide this, do you provide a philosophical outlook, or is it just being empathetic? And how do you know you've succeeded at a gig in that vein?
Oh, that's a great question. The only people that I'd ever done that for were my close friends and family. And my close family, I should say, not even just friends, but it's an all too common occurrence, unfortunately, where I grew up, and a lot of people who come from different reserves throughout Canada and North America can relate to this, that funerals, they happen at a rate that might be a little more frequent than other communities here in Canada, and it can be very somber, and it's very, very sad occasions a lot of times. There's a lot of people there that are just going through such a range of emotions, and my job would be to provide a moment for them to escape, I guess, where we were at the time, and transcend from just all of us being in a room together, sitting there, and try to find a place where they could just let their emotions exist, and they could really let it all pour out, and I guess utilize the opportunity that's been given to them, and in a way try to make the most of a very, very sad occasion. And sometimes an indicator would be when I would hear people crying that I was doing what I was there to do. But that's a very, very difficult thing to experience when it's your own family members, Mm-hmm. Seeing people that you love and you care about, seeing them in pain and watching them experience sometimes just the worst day of their life. And then I'm up there singing them songs on this same occasion, and the last thing I would want to do is make mistakes and make light of what I was there to do, and give these people an impression that I didn't feel honored, not only honored to do so, but a responsibility, that I had, that I was meant to be there to help people do exactly that, get it all out. And there were times where I'd get choked up. It couldn't help it. And there were times where The sound wasn't always the most ideal and stuff like that. But I think just the tribute and my intention and my connection to the whole gathering in the first place, them being my relatives oftentimes, and just my presence in that way, I know that it meant a lot and it means a lot to my family, and therefore, you know, I do the very best I could, and I don't do that very often anymore. I feel like I've been a little bit, you could just say, like, oversaturated with it in my lifetime. I've been to a lot of funerals in my lifetime, you know, and there's times where it just gets too heavy, and it's just all too common sometimes. The rate of them can just be overwhelming at times, and the circumstances as well. And you know, those kind of gatherings are meant to be a celebration of life, and they're not always that way. And I don't like to be a part of those kind of gatherings when I can avoid them. I do so. And as cold as that might sound, it's better for my spirit sometimes. You know, it's better for my soul. And I have 3 children, and I have a family that I have to always keep in mind, and they rely on dad to be, you know, dad. They count on me to show up when I need to. And there's just sometimes, you know, I have my own way of grieving, and I have my own way of dealing with loss, and I'm trying to teach that to them as well. And it does not coincide with some of the other ways that other people choose to do so. So for my own personal reasons, I've kind of stepped back away from that. You know, I think a part of it is because it does just conflict with it conflicts with what I do for a living, you know. It is kind of my job to get up and entertain in that way. And the last thing I want to do is be a funeral entertainer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just respectfully decline those kind of occasions more often now. But there's still times where my family needs me to be there, and that's what I'm there to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's not the extent of who you are as an artist. That's not where the journey ends. That's just a part of it.
Well said. Thank you.
I think with the tradition of folk music, you know, whether, and some of the people you mentioned, whether it's John Prine or even earlier than that, whether it's you know, Woody Guthrie or Pete Seeger, it's this strange balance often between being you know, carrying the stories of a culture or a region, but also bringing sometimes humor and levity, and walking this fine balance with, like you said, I'm when I'm playing a gig, I'm entertaining, but I'm also juggling these heavier topics. And I thought you did that really, really well at Wide Skies.
Thank you.
Would you consider yourself an activist? Like, is that something that's...
No. I spent time, and the reason I say no is because I spent a fair amount of time around activists and people who dedicate their life and their cause to, you know, something that is oftentimes out of our control, you know, and these things that can consume you at times. And the dedication I've seen that takes, and the commitment that takes, it's overwhelming to me. And as much as I try to, you know, do my part and say what I can say, at the end of the day, I do believe that the things that I talk about, it takes action, and it does need a concerted effort from people to want to see these kind of initiatives and want to see this kind of progress, specifically within the First Nations community. But the action, you know, there's a lot of ways to be to be active in this realm. So I appreciate that kind of even correlation, to be honest, because I'm just trying to be active as I can be in that way, Tanner. Honestly, man, like I have a real profound respect for people that are willing to lay their freedom and their sometimes reputation on the line for a cause. And I spent a lot of time in those circles and sometimes on those front lines with those folks. And I guess there's a part of it that I've kind of found a new way to fight, and maybe a more healthy way, you know, figuratively and very, 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 very literally. Part of why I keep these glasses on when I play shows and all the time is I've had several concussions when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Playing hockey and just being crazy. And so bright lights, they kind of take a toll on me. And I guess in a lot of ways, I don't have that same kind of tenacity that I used to have with that aggression. And being a father, being a husband, and being somebody that oftentimes gets called a role model, I take on a responsibility that I feel like I'm very much suited for, which is to try and, you know, be an example and to walk in the light that others can follow. And I'm careful with my footsteps, and I try to be careful with the words that I use, and I try to be careful with my actions. At the same time, I know how powerful all those things are. And so I also feel like I have these opportunities to be up on stages and to be in front of crowds, and I could say a lot of different things to them. So if there's any way I could even guide them in the direction of, you know, trying to consolidate some of these matters, trying to just talk about, you know, some of these hot topics that seem to have existed my entire life living here in southern Alberta and being here in this community of Sikokotok, you know, the cross-culturalization that exists, all of the moving parts and all the different people on multiple spectrums. It's very, very, I feel like a grassroots community that we have here. And I feel like people still do things in a lot of the old school ways. And I just feel like there's a far more effective way for me to get my message across to them than by trying to berate people with insistence and anger. And, you know, it can get very conflicting when you start trying to be an activist and you start trying to spread the word. I've been a part of things like the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples movement, you know, and I've participated in walks and candlelight vigils and things like that, you know, and my message has always been for people to take action, but what does that action really look like, you know, and what is meaningful, what's really going to resonate with the people you're trying to connect to. And being a part of that kind of a campaign has taught me a whole different perspective. It's shown me a whole different perspective on what that looks like. And also being a part of things like Amnesty International and those letter writing gatherings that I've had the privilege of participating in. I've just learned that there's a lot of ways that you can get things done in this world. And it's really a matter of how you approach it, what your intention is, and the best way that you try to connect with folks. And I think I'm doing a good job at it so far. So I don't want to deter people with, you know, politics. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't want to shame anyone and have anyone in an audience feeling like I'm blaming and pointing a finger. I work for, like I've said before, like the Allied Arts Council, and our director there, Stephen Ford, he's got a beautiful message, which is, you know, take action. Like just giving out a bunch of land recognitions and doing all of these kind of mandatory disclaimers, it loses its sincerity after a while. And there's a lot of different ways that folks can take action in this world. And a lot of times when I'm a part of these gatherings, and if I have anything to say, I try to tell people to offer a little bit of grace, empathy, and love to their fellow human, because you'd be amazed with some of the paths that these people have had to walk down. And I've had the privilege of sitting in the circles and getting to listen to what a lot of them have to say, and it's changed my world, and it's changed my whole point of view on this matter. So I encourage anyone else that if they can do so, please do. Sit there and hear what these folks who are struggling, navigating through this life, hear their story, and you'd be surprised how much instilling integrity in another person, how far that can go with a human being, and giving them a sense of belonging and self-worth. And you can accomplish that just by hearing what they have to say a lot of times. So, that's the kind of action I'm trying to promote.
Wow, that's powerful. You are never going to have a shortage of song ideas. It's going to take you 10 albums to get through.
I need to just get one done first of all. All I've got is a little EP at the moment. So
it's a whole nother battle. My friend made a compliment about your voice when we saw you at Wide Skies. He said, "This is the voice that everyone's chasing, that everyone wants, and lots of people are faking." He's like, he has it, like that voice.
Oh wow!
But you mentioned early on that you and this is a common thing I hear from singers, is that they can't stand the sound of their voice at first. Is that something you've grown into? Is that something that's developed? Is that something that you've learned to appreciate? Or how do you feel about your voice?
Oh, I loathed my voice, especially my speaking voice when I was younger. Whenever I'd hear it, I thought I was listening to someone else. And I would oftentimes do what I could to avoid being captured in an audio way. I didn't mind if someone seen what I was doing, but to hear me doing it was a whole different thing for me. And I don't know why. I don't know where that insecurity came from. I got nothing but compliments from the time I was a kid. There was a crazy relative of mine. His name was Lukey when I was younger. I think I might have been about 6 years old. And my dad took me out to the timbers to go and look at this horse that he was going to buy off of one of our family members. And I met Lukey for the first time, and he was a real cool guy. He's an old cowboy, crazy guy though. And he went way too soon. But I just remember him looking at me while I was talking and chuckling, and then telling my dad, like, "Gee, this guy's got a raspy voice on him. Sounds like he's already been smoking." And I was about 6 years old. I don't know. I guess I had a head start on it somehow. And don't get me wrong, I have put in my own work through the years as well at that. But I definitely I crafted it through the years. I've put a lot of work into it, and a lot of it was all by myself. I worked in the oil patch for so long, and oftentimes I found myself in, Fairview, Grand Prairie, Fort Nelson, Rainbow Lake, Weyburn, Innisfail, you name it. I've been there in all of your bald prairies, in your bush and swampland, in the mountain ranges of Waterton. I was all over the place once upon a time, helping destroy the earth, all in the name of oil and gas exploration. And then I worked construction for years and years and years too, where I was out in Cold Lake, and I was driving sometimes 15 hours on the road to get to my destination. And all I would have was my stereo and my time, all by myself. And that was where I practiced. And there's no recordings of it. And that was where I learned the limitations of my voice and what I could really do with it. And I learned how to try and match what was coming through the radio, oftentimes at volumes way too high. And I've blown it out so many times. My wife has heard it just totally gone. And she's always attested that every time that happens, it comes back stronger. But I think my fellow singers will say that's not so, and I should not do that. I've learned some techniques through the years on how to just like not destroy it, especially just speaking as much as I have to sometimes. But when it comes to performing, I don't really think about it a whole lot anymore. I've really just learned to try and tap into what I'm getting back from the crowd. And I know when I'm being obnoxious and piercing and it's too much for folks, and I've learned, you know, how to quiet down and bring them in. And it depends on the show that I'm playing, and you know what folks are there to do. It's not always an occasion where people are there to listen to music. Sometimes, you know, there's a birthday party going on, or there's a staff gathering, and I've learned how to be loud but not obnoxious, and I've learned how to just control it a lot better. But in terms of my likening to it, it's grown on me. That's
awesome.
about the best I could say.
That's good. That's good to hear. I'm just gonna do a quick camera check.
Sure.
Let's check our time. Oh, sweet.
Doing good?
Doing good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you just one or two more questions. I think
Sure.
we're good.
Giving you some lengthy answers.
Those are, I appreciate them. They're great answers too.
Thank you.
I'm a storyteller as well, so
Yeah, it makes sense why you got a podcast.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I heard this quote from a filmmaker, and as we've discovered before we hit record that we're close to the same age, and this filmmaker said, in your 20s, he was talking about art and one's life, and he said, in your 20s, he said, go out and get to know yourself. You know, make mistakes, learn what you like, learn what you don't like, learn what you can bring to the table. And he said, as an artist in your 30s and 40s, that's your time to do your great work. And then he said, after that, you got to think, I've learned how to do my good work, and I've learned who I am, and how can I bring this back to my community? How can I share? How can I be a mentor to someone else that's on this journey coming up? And I don't know what it is about that, but to me, that's just been such a comforting timeline. And whether that of course, it's going to be different for everyone. But when I was in my 20s, as a musician, as an entertainer, entertaining was all I needed. It was enough. That was the goal number one. If I entertained in a bar, good, cool. I could go home and I could sleep at night, and I was fine. Then as I got, in my late 30s, mid 30s, it wasn't enough anymore. I needed something else there. And then that kind of rolled into, what's my mission statement as an artist? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to get across? What are my values, and how does that play into the show? And where I was using too much humor to deflect, and the humor wasn't always well placed. It was just, maybe it's like I'm using this to deflect from something that might hurt my feelings, or that might just evoke some sort of emotion that I'm not comfortable getting into.
Yeah.
And so I, as I'm getting into my 40s now, I'm excited to kind of to do my good work, but also think about that, my mission statement, what I want to, you've kind of covered it to a degree already, but is there a mission statement? Is there something you're trying to share with your music? Is there something that's important to you?
You got great questions there, Tanner. Yeah, absolutely. I have a mission, and I don't think anyone really does this without one, right? And it's got to be very personal and something that I think is unique, to your own, I guess, plight in this world, right? And your reason for existence. And mine personally is for my family. And the reason why I do anything that I do is for my kids and my family. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I have aunties and uncles and brothers and sisters, and just a lot of people in my circle that I cherish. And like I said before, I want to make sure that I'm consistent with my path, you know, and with what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, because it's far too easy to get caught up in ruts, and to even, you know, you meet people along this journey that have some different ideas. Sometimes folks that I've worked with get some pretty elaborate, crazy ideas of what it is we're doing and why we're doing this. I have incredible bandmates, these two guys, Wayne Summers and Guy Plakash. I've known them now for years, and they're a couple of old dogs that have been playing music for decades, you know, and they have taught me a real level of humility and patience and dedication that I did not understand until I started playing music with these guys. And they really have taught me that, like, you've got a lifetime to go, that really music should be a journey that, like anything else, you take your time with, you learn as you're going through it, and you adapt, and you progress, and you grow, and, you know, you're always able to learn more. And I know a lot of people say that, but anybody who's tried playing some jazz knows exactly what I'm talking about, or even just try playing a genre that you're not used to. And outside of just music, that goes for all things art and all mediums too, you know. A lot of us try to challenge ourselves constantly in what we do. And for me, my challenge is honestly just sustainability, and like, it's a game of attrition and not giving in to all the other voices. There's so many hurdles that I feel like, you know, you could place in your own way, or other people are going to put them for you, put them there for you. But, you know, this imposter syndrome, it's no joke, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us have to convince ourselves before we ever try to convince anyone else that this is who we are and what we're supposed to do. And this world has a way of constantly pushing you down if you're not resistant to that, you know. And it's far too easy to become subservient and to become complacent with things, and it's far too easy to start chasing after goals that, you know, aren't even your own, and to start trying to live out other people's dreams because of, you name it, just the dynamics of trying to work, you know, trying to be in this whole machine that is called music.
Or chase other people's timelines too. You know, that's the worst one, where it's like, this person did this at 30, so I should have done this at 30. I'm like, well, he did that at 30 in 1965. That was a different world.
I've been a late bloomer all my life, thankfully. I was a runt in size. I was just a small little guy when I was a kid, and I was always underestimated, and I felt like I've always had to kind of, you know, wait my turn in a lot of ways. No matter what I've done, I've always felt like I've always had to be there, watching someone else do it, taking notes, telling myself, when it's my turn, I'm going to do it differently though, you know, and I'm going to do it in my way. And then sure enough, I don't know if I manifest this stuff or what, but I get plucked up to come and, you know, be a part of the whole show. And I have to always have my own self-agency intact. I have to always have that way. I've yet to give over that kind of power to someone else, that they decide what I say, when I say it, where I say it, who I say it to. And it might not be the most lucrative path for me to go down, but a lot of my heroes have done the same thing, where they said, regardless of, you know, the hits and the money and the likes and all of those accolades and the trophies, I have to sleep good at night knowing that I am who I am, and I'm happy with that. So my journey, honestly, is to keep that intact. Like, that really is my goal. That is my mission, is to be this human being for the rest of my life, and to not give in to just all of the pitfalls, and to try and set that blueprint for my children, and to show them it's possible. Because I didn't come from a place where I was taught you could make an album and you could go and perform, and, you know, as much as people encouraged it and they enjoyed me doing that stuff, a lot of them kept telling me go on Canadian Idol and go and join the contest. I've never been in a songwriting contest. I have no desire whatsoever to compete or pit myself against my fellow artists. I don't think it's why it exists. I don't think it's conducive to the meaning of it, and I don't think that even a crowd gets what they should out of watching two people compete for their favor. I believe, like, if they're there, they should be enjoying all of it, no matter what. Some of it more than others, you know, and obviously the cream's going to rise to the top. But I do know that sincerity and integrity and honesty are things that, like, you can't replace them. You can't have some pseudo version of those things, you know. People are going to catch that.
Yeah. People can smell it from a mile away.
And it doesn't do you any good in the long run. You might get some kind of gain for it shortly, and you might have your 15 minutes, and people are going to, you know, but I think eventually people will see the truth, and then, come what may, right? So I just want to try to be on the winning side of that, and I want to at least have that much intact. I might not, you know, be the richest player in the game, but I'll still be in the game, man.
Yeah. There's so much to being the last man standing, you know. It's like the sustainability of it all. It's important. It's like, I think too, because, like, you know, at 43, you bring all your previous life experience and wisdom, which you wouldn't have, you know, you wouldn't have had it at 20. It's like, you know, you might have wrote a catchy song, but you wouldn't have the same wisdom that you could put behind it. It just wouldn't be there.
And I started when I was about 25 writing. So I was about 3 years into playing guitar and you know, playing other people's music. Still good. Yeah, I was about 3 years into it, and I just found that there were songs out there that I wanted to hear, that I'm not saying they didn't exist, but they weren't doing what I wanted them to do for me. So sure enough, I started trying to write my own. And the first one I ever wrote was a song called Rock and Roll Baby. And my whole purpose for wanting to write this song was so I could bash Nickelback and I could share it with all my friends. And to this day, whenever I feel like it's fun enough to play that, because it's a silly song, it doesn't really have the kind of sentiment that I'd like my music to have. But I will say that, like, at the time when I wrote it, I put my heart and soul into it, and lyrically, you know, I drew from all of my inspirations of Dion and the Belmonts, and I went back to my doo-wop era, and, like, just, it's a 3-chord bandit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my intention back then is still my same intention today, which is to make something that people will enjoy. And if I can somehow sneak a little bit of knowledge in there, but they could boogie along to it and not even realize that's what's happening, like, you know, that's the move.
I love that. I've started to call myself an unreliable narrator. And what I mean by that is the same thing. I want people to show up, think they're watching something, and then when it's too late to leave, I get to kind of get the message across a little bit. But I'm not beating them over the head. I'm just subliminally putting in there, and let's talk about something a little bit deeper when you think we're talking about, you know, this.
Especially all the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, you know, and the things that I think we all share, fears and dreams and, you know, even just knowledge. And anybody who's grown up in this, did you grow up around here yourself?
I grew up in Tabor.
Oh yeah,
Southern Alberta.
So right nearby then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you learn the lay of the land. You learn our history and what you think went down, and then you grow up and you start to learn, like, there's not really adults. There's just older versions of human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the storytellers weren't so accurate with all of the details
Mm-hmm.
on how things were settled out here, and you know, stuff that I feel like is meaningful, topics that I feel like we avoid, but at the same time, if you approach it with the right kind of tone, with the right meaning and intent, and if you are truly open with it, and I am, when I speak on these things and I have conversations with anybody about this stuff, I don't ever try to come from a place of preaching and trying to tell them that I know what's what and I have all the answers. And I'm always trying to receive more knowledge if I can, even if it's just getting somebody else's perspective on the same thing, right? But at the end of the day, like, you know, you have to build your morals. You have to have your limitations. You have to know what's what. You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say that, you know, you can lie to folks, but you don't want to lie to yourself, right? That's a whole different game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like as long as I'm speaking the truth and welcoming other people to do the same thing, some good's got to come out of that, even if it means things get a little bit heated from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it means that not everyone agrees. That's not the goal, to get everybody to agree. Like, first you got to get everybody talking, right?
Yep.
That's the hardest thing.
Absolutely.
A lot of people will just silently disagree with one another,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and never say anything otherwise. A lot of people become subservient in a lot of ways where they hear, you know, lies. They know the truth, but they do not know how to correct it in any way. They don't have any recourse for it, you know. And even if it means that I just share a similar perspective that they can, you know, listen along to and just feel like I get it, like they and I are speaking the same language, that we are connecting, well, then they can just hit repeat, hopefully.
Yeah. Man, that was beautiful. Thanks so much for making the time. We covered a lot of ground today.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. You have a beautiful studio here.
Awesome. Thank you.
I love getting to have these kind of conversations. I haven't had many of them, so I'm honored that I get to do this right here back home with, you know, my fellows Southern Albertan too. So right on, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, and over and out.
Thank you.
Dude, that was so good.